Unfiltered, where the ultimate fandom meets the gridiron. I'm FDN Insider Joel Norris, alongside with FDN Insiders Caleb Rutherford and Dom Blasco. Today we're talking about the NFL Combine and the results of it, who we were impressed with, who we were not impressed with. We're going to discuss the quarterbacks going into this draft class who are worth the hype entering the 2025 year, and our fan question, which is a kind of a follow-up to last Friday's fan question: is college football heading towards a super league with the SEC and the Big Ten? You're not going to want to miss any of the action here on the Gridiron Unfiltered, presented by Fandom Nation. YouTube, Spotify, we're on X and Instagram at Fandom Nation. Follow and subscribe on all platforms. Caleb, Dom, what is going on, guys? How are y'all?
Good. It was a long combine weekend, but now I get to unwrap it.
Caleb, we're going to have a lot to discuss, especially with Tennessee in this combine, because there were some two standout players that you were mentioning before we hit record, like, okay, not so good, but also good. I'm not going to spoil it. I'm going to leave it for you, but it was quite interesting on your take on that. So the combine was quite the doozy, at least for some of us. Dom had a lot of, bothful takes before when we were logging on here, but we're going to discuss it. We're going to break it down. Starting off with you, Caleb, before we get to Dom, who are you impressed with and who are you not impressed with the NFL Combine?
So I was really impressed with the safety from South Carolina, Nick Emanwari. I hope I didn't butcher his name. He was second of all safeties in the 40, he was first in the vertical, broad jump, and bench. Freak athlete. A lot of people have compared him to Derwin James, actually. I think he was incredible in the combine. I think he really improved his draft stock. Another guy I had wrote down was R.J. Harvey, running back from UCF. He really impressed me a lot, too. He ran a lot faster than I thought he was going to. He's pretty quick for his size. And with the loaded running back class, I think that was a really good deal for him to run the 40, jump, do all the drills. I thought that was really good. It's kind of hard to judge someone based strictly off the combine. But like Will Howard, that whole situation, I'm sure Dom's going to touch on that in a minute, but people hating on him for missing in drills and stuff like that after I watched him light the playoffs up. I don't know. I feel like it's super hard to judge someone when they don't know who they're throwing to. Stuff like that. It just gets me a little bit. But I was really impressed with James Pierce. I will say he does definitely have some off-field issues. I have some inside sources that say that the character issues are pretty true. He would show up late to practice occasionally, forget his practice gear, forget game gear, as you all already saw. He ran in a hoodie in his 40 and still freak athlete. But that's my takes. I have a couple more, but I'd talk too long.
Yeah, those are really good takes. I'm a little bit more pessimistic when it came to this year's combine. I think it was a pretty big failure because I feel like it's an opportunity for guys to actually show like what their metrics are and to get us excited about them, or see who true athletes are. And I just feel like there were too many opt-outs, too many guys who, really just got like their measurements with their arms and hands and stuff. Like they got the measurements done, but they didn't actually go through the actual workouts. And I just feel like it's a great opportunity to see those guys play, see if they've improved since the end of the college football season, see how fast guys actually are. I know they're not wearing pads, but I just feel like it was a missed opportunity for a lot of guys. I think the guys in the trenches, so the offensive and defensive lines, were really impressive. I think those guys really showed out. But like the skill position groups, especially the quarterbacks and the wide receivers, the running backs did pretty good. A lot of them showed out, but especially the wide receivers and the quarterbacks. And, you mentioned Will Howard, and it really is disappointing to see people trash on him, because you look at guys like Cam Ward and Shadur Sanders. Those guys, everyone's been complaining how they're not real, like compared to other quarterback classes, they're really not that much better. So you would think, why trash on a guy when the other guys you're saying aren't very good to even participate? And Shadur Sanders actually, I'm not a big Shadur Sanders guy, but he actually did end up backing Will Howard up and saying that, like, you're throwing to new guys with different speeds, different route techniques, and it really does make a difference. And I'm lucky and I'm happy as a Ohio State fan that Pat McAfee came out with, he was on the podcast and he said, I had a guy who told me that there's at 11 at night before the combine started, the night before, there was a guy thrown in the parking lot deep to someone else, and they said it was Will Howard. Like, there are things that you should worry about quarterbacks, and obviously he didn't look good, but there is something you can't teach, and James Pierce is the exact opposite. He has all the talent in the world, but doesn't have heart and leadership. Will Howard might not have the flashy attributes and he actually does have pretty good speed, but I don't think he has a great throwing on it. But he has the leadership and he has the determination, and you saw that this year. And that goes a long way when it comes to trying to learn NFL system and really making it and not making it. Is just being able to focus on attention to detail and being able to lead. And, raw talent only gets you so far. And that's kind of what I had to take with things. I was very upset that people didn't participate, but at the same time, people were really getting, too harshly evaluated when so many people opted out.
Yeah. I think there was a lot of opt-outs. I mean, you had guys like Cam Ward not do anything, Shadur Sanders. They were all just vouching and waiting for their pro days. Ashley Jeanty, one of them. I do want to touch on the offensive linemen, though. While the quarterback class, everyone's going to touch on that because everybody's quarterback-first mindset, right? But at the same time, when you look at some of these other skill positions, like the tight ends, like the O-linemen, it's a pretty deep class. Will Campbell, rated on at least on a lot of people's boards, number one offensive lineman going into this year's draft, ran a 4.9 on his second try. 4.9. The first one was like a 5.0, but 4.9 on his 40-yard dash. For an offensive lineman, that's moving, all right? And then you got guys like Mason Taylor. I mean, I know I'm mentioning LSU guys right now, but you got guys like who are doing it impressive in their gauntlet challenges, and they're just going through the motions, and they look like an absolute star. So guys like that I'm impressed with. I was really impressed with Dante Thornton, receiver out of Tennessee. I thought he did really, really well in his 40 at least. He had good hands. Matthew Golden did really well out of Texas, but Matthew Golden's had a really good season with Texas in general, and I think he was going to be no doubt impress and show out. I like Jackson Dart. I like what I saw from him. He's the most, like I've said on previous episodes, the most talked about quarterback since Eli. I really liked him. I really liked what I saw with his throws. I liked his, Dom, you mentioned the velocity before we got on. His velocity was good. I really liked, and I was impressed with him. I think he's going to climb and sneak up. I won't say, in my honest estimate, I would say first round pick, but he's going to be a high second round pick, I believe. Just in my thoughts. But is there any more guys, and I can start with you, Dom, who impressed you, or, you were just kind of like, not really?
Yeah, so one quick thing I want to mention about the linemen. I gave the linemen props, but I also do want to kind of tell you my thinking on, the linemen we had a couple linemen who have done things that we have not seen in the combine in a very long time. Just really explosive, really quick. I do think that there is a little bit of a change going on in the NFL when it comes to this, like, the build that we want linemen to be nowadays, and that's more cut for conditioning and getting upfield purposes. So I do think there is a little bit of a change in the NFL going on and how they want their linemen developed. Not to say it's not impressive, but you're not really looking for the really big, sound linemen anymore. You're looking for the more cut, long, tall linemen. So I do think that you're going to continue to see after this year that there is like really quick and explosive linemen coming out to the draft. So I did want to mention that because I am seeing a change in the NFL on how they want linemen to be built. But a guy who won't be talked about probably ever now that the combine's over until he gets drafted is Tyler Shuck. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. It ends with GH, but I think it does pronounce as a K. He's the quarterback from Louisville. He's very old and very experienced in college football, but from what I've been hearing, he turned it up in the Senior Bowl and was maybe the best quarterback there. Guys like Jackson Dart and Jalen Milroe and Dylan Gabriel were guys that he was competing against in the Senior Bowl, and then I heard he backed it up at the Combine. So I know everyone is looking for experienced guys, but also young enough to, have more years to develop. So he's not going to be seen as a top prospect whatsoever, probably 5th round and later. But if you're looking for a guy, if you're confident in your offensive system, if you're able to put a guy like him in there, like Brock Purdy, if you needed him, I think he could turn heads if he's got the smart genes in him and he's able to follow a system and follow a really good system like the Shanahans and the LaFleurs and the O'Connells. In the NFL world, I think he could really thrive. So look out for him. He's not going to get the flashy social media buzz, but I've heard really good things about him, and I heard he backed it up this weekend. Last guy, Shamar Stewart, the guy out of Texas A&M. I made a post the other day how his metrics and his size and everything is the exact same as Myles Garrett. I'm not saying he's going to be Myles Garrett, but when your metrics match with one of the best defensive ends in the game, who's just one of the most athletic guys in the game, it's pretty impressive. So he was one of the guys who really shined and really took advantage of doing all of the drills that you can do at the NFL Combine, and it definitely helped him out. He might be a top 10 pick now.
For sure. I also have wide receiver Jalen Noel from Iowa State. I think he's extremely underrated prospect. I think he's going to be an absolute steal. He really surprised me at the Combine. He had some good numbers. He was number 1 in the broad jump of the wide receivers, and I believe vertical as well. Maybe 2nd in vertical. But he really, really impressed me. Same thing with Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky, the DB who had the fastest 40 time, 4.28. He was moving. Really impressed me. I didn't even know who he was, really. That sounds bad. But he caught my eye watching. And then you had mentioned Dante Thornton, and he impressed me this year. His improvement from his previous year, and I had talked about James Pierce. He is the complete opposite of James Pierce, and the whole James Pierce thing hurts me to say as a Tennessee fan. But the Dante Thornton, he's ultimate dude, a great leader, hard worker. A team would be getting a steal in him as well, especially because they have him projected like 5th round, somewhere around there. And I think that would be a steal in this draft, wide receiver draft class for sure.
All right, I think I'm just going to go back to the offensive line because, dude, I was really so impressed with the offensive line. Jared Wilson, center out of Georgia, man ran a 4.84. A 4.84 as an offensive lineman. Like, that's insane. That is insane. And I like what Dom said just a minute ago, piggybacking off what he said about the lean and more cut offensive linemen. That's what a lot of what the NFL is looking for now. Same way how the Eagles are built on the O-line. I think that's what they're looking for. Jared Wilson, guys like him, Will Campbell, guys like him, guys like, Tate Rutledge out of Georgia. He ran a 4.97. Though these numbers are insane for O-linemen. It wasn't like last year. Last year was a little bit, more up, like 5 to 5.0, 5.21. You know what I mean. But these numbers are quite impressive. If you're looking for an offensive lineman, I think if you're looking for an O-lineman, you need help on the O-line. it is the way to go now. Right now, it really is. I think that's really all I have in terms of like offensive linemen and what to look out for and who I was impressed with. I can touch on one more. Bashil Tootin from Virginia Tech. He's been an underrated prospect, in the ACC last year, but he ran a 4.32. He was the fastest running back in the 40. Jaden Blue from Texas, 4.38. So Brashard Smith, SMU. He ran a 4.39. If you're looking for a fat speed type running back, I think the running back this year is a little bit more deep. I mean, obviously you got guys like Ashton Jeanty and Cam Scattaboo. One of my personal favorites, Amari Hampton from North Carolina. You got guys like that out there, but if you're looking for a underrated type back, Tootin, Blue, Smith, RJ Harvey from UCF, guys like that are pretty impressive. And I think those are prospects that you don't really want to underlook heading in if you're in need of a running back heading into this draft. I think one person I was not impressed with the most, I don't know, it seemed kind of weird to me. I thought I was going to at least he did good, but I thought I was going to see more out of him. I'll say two: Trevor Etienne and Donovan Edwards out of the running back position. I think those two they were okay. I just was expecting more, at least out of the hype that was delivered with them. But I don't know. I was expecting a tad bit more. At least out of Donovan Edwards. The way he played 2023, you would expect he would have been the best running back off the board, right? I mean, going into this year. So, I don't know. Dom, you had disagreements on that? I don't know, but that's just my take and my final takes on everything.
No, yeah, just we're talking about the running back group. Travion Henderson, he didn't have the best 40 time, but he also, at his top mile per hour speed, it was the best at like 23.8. So he's the most explosive probably in this class. I do worry though, because he was really injured when he was a horseback for us. And then when we got Judkins and they could kind of share, he didn't get hurt. But it does worry me. But it was kind of funny after he ran the 40, he just looked so much faster than the time said. And then you saw Mike McDaniel for the Dolphins. He made that look after. I mean, they could use a running back like him, and they really like running backs like him. They're really explosive and fast kind out there. And I wouldn't be surprised. He'd be really fun in that system. And they really like to rotate those running backs there, so they would be a really good fit. So just an additional thought since we were talking about running backs.
I think, if you want to look at for example, DJ Giddens, that's another underrated prospect at the running back spot too. Jarquez Hunter, it feels like Jarquez Hunter's been in the SEC and Auburn for a long time, but Jarquez Hunter could be an underrated prospect. There's just a lot of underrated prospects running back wise. Caleb, any final?
We'll get a starter in the 7th round this year.
Yeah,
you might really.
You honestly might. It's a deep class for running backs. Caleb, any final thoughts before we move on to our next segment?
No, I really second the running back and the lineman takes. I think this running back class is super loaded. That makes me think in a way that it might get passed up early in the draft because there is so many. I could see them kind of fall until the 2nd round and then start going off the board like crazy. And then same with O-linemen. I really think the league is changing, like you all were talking about, kind of slimming down a little bit. And the times this year for the 40 for the lineman was insane. I think last year Joe Alt had one of the fastest times, and he ran like a 5.2, like you were saying, like a 5.1. So that impressed me a lot this year too.
They're very deep. Both classes are very deep. And not only that, the tight ends are through the roof as well. So, those are my favorite 3 positions right now: running back, tight end, and offensive lineman. But guys, if you have any more or takes, let us know down below in the comments on X, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, whatever platform we're on. If you have takes, let us know in the comments below. Honestly, football makes me hungry, man. I don't know about you guys, but it makes me hungry. It makes me want to eat burgers, sausage, meats, any kind of sausage meat for football as a fan. It makes you feel good. It makes you, want to eat. It makes you want to just, have delicious meals, what have you, for football. Guys, click the link below in the YouTube description for burger and sausage meats and more. At the description of this YouTube video at Fandom Nation. Follow and subscribe on all platforms. Let's talk about really quick before we move on to our fan question to conclude the episode. Draft and heading into the draft of quarterbacks that are worth the hype in 2025. To me, this is me being selfish, I honestly like this year's class less than most. I think that next year's class is going to be better than 2025, but we're still going to talk about it. Quarterbacks that are worth the hype going into the 2025 draft. Caleb, I'll start with you. Who do you think is worth the hype going into this 2025 class in Lambeau Field and Green Bay?
So, really, I completely agree. I think this class is down a little bit. I'm not as high on Shadur Sanders as most people are. Same thing with Cam Ward. I think he could be really good. I don't think either of them are top 5 picks in most years' classes, in my opinion. But my favorite quarterbacks are ones that have proven themselves, have shown what they can do on the field consistently and win games, like your Jalen Hurts take a couple weeks ago. These guys win games. Will Howard won a championship this year. I think he's extremely underrated in this class. Dylan Gabriel as well. He's played so many years of college football for many different teams and won everywhere he's been. And then my other is Jackson Dart. I think he has shown some inconsistencies and he does some boneheaded things occasionally, but he has the tools. He really has the tools. Another guy I'm not super high on is Jalen Milroe. To me, he hasn't fully proven to me everything he can do. I know he can run the ball. He can throw it deep occasionally, but can he do it all consistently? That's my thing with him. If I see him do it consistently, hopefully he doesn't go to one of my rival teams and do it against my Chargers. But if I see him do it consistently, I would feel a little bit more confident in him.
So I have a bit of a different take with things. I agree with Shadur. Don't believe in him whatsoever. He may prove me wrong, but I doubt it. Cam Ward, my opinion on him has changed a lot. I think partly is because I want to believe in one top-tier quarterback this year. I think it's just like the football, person in me. I just really want to believe in one of these guys. I think Cam Ward, he did a lot of shotgun in Miami, just a lot of like throw. But I think if you get him into a play action system, I think he could be really good in play action. That's what my Brownies are going to go back to under the Stefanski scheme is play action, run, play action. So I'd be really interested to see him at his pro day, see how he looks. I know every guy looks good on their pro day, but finally get to see him throw. So I think he could be really good. I am going to go against your Jalen Milroe take. I just can't help but think like his throwing mechanics look like Lamar. His speed is undoubtedly amazing. And guess what? Out of all these guys, believe it or not, you can say his most recent season was just as bad. But if you go back 2 years ago when he had Nick Saban, he had an experienced coach, not a brand new coach, and a more experienced, scheme that they had there 2 years ago. He's won more than any of these other quarterbacks. Now, he doesn't have a national championship, but guess what? He's the only guy other than Dylan Gabriel and Will Howard, I think, at the top of the list who's actually made the playoffs. And he's an SEC championship. He's beat the Georgia Bulldogs defense twice, which not a lot of people can say. So I'm just saying, I think he's got a winning gene in him. I think if you can just harness his power, people are going to be really happy. And I think if he gets into like a Miami Dolphins kind of scheme where it's like get your get the ball out of your hand quick to playmakers. Obviously he wouldn't start over Tua, but, Tua has issues, so you could see the possibility there. Or like a Pittsburgh Steelers system where it's just like shorter, more conservative passes, take advantage of his athletic ability. Really like Jalen Milroe. Honestly, think Tommy Reese is our offense coordinator now. He's the offense coordinator that was there two years ago that I'm raving. I believe that at the time he was a great quarterback. Just new system, kind of changed things up. And then two guys who I also think could just be like really good system quarterbacks is Riley Leonard and Brady Cook. Brady Cook was one that really took advantage of being really the only quarterback who did all the drills. He ran a 4.6. His throwing looked really good. And another guy, real quick, Quinn Ewers, looked really accurate in his throwing. His athletic ability scares me a little bit, but you can't sleep on him. I mean, he could go. I think he could go to a team like the Colts, who are probably going to want a veteran competition with Richardson, but a team who might take a swing on another young quarterback in maybe the third round. So a lot of exciting unknown, like that. This is the position where you don't want to draft unknown guys, but like it is kind of exciting to see, who could turn out. Almost all these guys, but maybe two quarterbacks are going to have to wait for their chance to really show out. But it gives guys time to learn the system and learn the professional league.
Absolutely. That was a good take. Very good take. So I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of what Dom said before we move on to our fan question segment. I think that Quinn Ewers did prove himself a lot. I think his draft stock kind of fell during the playoffs and during the later part of the season, but he kind of went back up a little bit during the combine, threw really well. Like I said about Jackson Dart earlier, Jackson Dart has done really, really well preparing for the draft. Dylan Gabriel has done well preparing for the draft. I think Dylan Gabriel's a good pick. I think those are my three right now. I think the Tyler Show pick was really good, or Shuck pick was great. I think that from earlier, I think he's got a little bit of an edge where he can prove himself, especially because he was a veteran and played for so long in college, right? He's got that experience behind him. He's got that veteran-minded mindset, I guess, as a quarterback behind him. I think that could go a long way in this draft, too. So I think those are some guys, for at least my take, quickly, that are worth the hype. If you want to throw about Shedeur Sanders, I don't think the top tier. I think it's more, and this is a good point that you made, Dom. I think I feel like almost like the unknown quarterbacks are starting to get a little bit more love now than the top tier quarterbacks. I don't know. I'm just not really
sold.
Actually
participating in stuff, so
yeah,
that helps.
Exactly. And the top tier quarterbacks are a little bit, debatable, especially during the last part of the later part of the college season. Their draft was their play kind of did. So it's like. We'll see. I don't know. Are they really going to be franchise quarterbacks? I don't know. That's a whole other conversation. But guys, if you are interested in the draft, NFL in general, guys, click the link below. There's Cleveland Browns merch. There's Patriots merch, Titans merch. There's any, wherever the picks land at the top of the draft order, you can get your merch down below. Just click the link below on our YouTube description of our episode and just enjoy all of our content. Enjoy anything that has to do with NFL Combine and Draft at Fandom Nation on all platforms. Click the link below to get your merch and fandom on below. Guys, let's get into gear with our fan question to conclude our episode of Gridiron Unfiltered. By the way, shout out to all of our fan communities on not just in our fan boards, but on YouTube, on X, on Instagram, all of our fan communities out there. Thank you for engaging with our fan questions each and every episode and liking our episodes as well. Guys, fan question is this. Following our question for should the playoff expand, for the college football playoff last week, should college football, and Don, you touched on this a little bit, so I'm going to follow up with it. Is college football headed towards a super league with the SEC, Big Ten? Dom, I'm going to start with you. Then Caleb, you're next after Dom.
Yeah, I think we learn just how business works, whether it's professional sports, college sports, or whatever. Everyone likes to slowly copycat each other. And if you look at all professional sports, there's two conferences, right? And we keep on having this problem now where teams are starting to change conferences, leaving their previous conferences a little bit weaker and a little less, enjoyable to watch because there's not as the top teams have left and joined either the Big Ten or SEC. And those are the two conferences that people are moving to, unless they're really low and they're moving slightly up. But the top programs, if they're moving anywhere, is to the SEC and Big Ten. And I know the Big Ten and SEC are definitely chomping at the bits to try to get more teams because it means more money. And I guarantee you college football will let it happen because it just helps them out too. I mean, you get to finally see, it actually cures a couple of things in my mind, especially talking about the college football playoffs and how we keep on complaining about like the strength of schedule. I think this will then promote long-term good teams playing each other because they're in the same conference. I think it's going to start promoting that. I think before college football was like the good teams were scared to play other good teams because only 4 teams made it to the playoffs, but now it's expanded. So now you have to start playing good teams to really have like respect for yourself. And even if you lose a couple times, you're still going to make the playoffs. So I think teams are more acceptable to playing the top programs because of that. So all those things combined, I think it really does make sense for, those two conferences, the Big Ten and SEC, to finally be 2. I know people aren't going to like it, and it really would look weird and feel weird. I don't think it's going to happen next year. I don't think it's going to happen 5 years from now. But slowly but surely, you're going to see more dominoes fall, and before you know it, there'll only be 2 conferences left.
Yeah, so I literally completely agree. I think it's such a money thing that the SEC and the Big Ten would love for this to happen, and I think that's what is going to happen. I saw a joke recently. It was like eventually you would think all these teams would come together and create something together and name it the NCAA. So it's like history repeats itself, So it's like these guys are going to all come together and be one big super program or 2 separate ones and just play each other in the playoffs. And I definitely could see that happening. And I think it would be great, really, because everybody's moving to around 9 conference games because there are so many teams in each conference. So I definitely see that happening in the near future.
And I guess I'll just give you my thoughts and we can close out since we're almost out of time. So I've already said this last week. I think this is like the definition of a supervillain arc, honestly, of a hostile takeover. We're going to just take over everything. It's our plot, and we want all the power, money, control everything, right? It's heading towards that way, and it's either A, you're going to join us, SEC or Big Ten, or you're getting left behind. One or 2 ways. You're either going to, unless we need a committee, and now I just gave us another follow-up fan question, unless we need a committee that can save us all, you're either going to do 2 things. Get stepped on, or join one of the 2 conferences. It's not going to happen like Dom said 5 or 10 years, or 5 years from now, maybe not even 10 years from now, but slowly but surely, if we don't get a committee in here, I think we will head towards Super League. That's my thoughts, and we are out of time. So, guys, if you enjoy this fan question, and if you want to engage in it, show our comments down below on X, Instagram, YouTube. Go to the fan boards on Facebook and all other platforms. Answer your question. Guys, also, if you want to shop your merch and get your gear off of College Football Fandom, click the link down below, and it will take you to see how you can get your fandom on with your gear and apparel and merchandise. Go to our insider pages and learn more about us, me, Dom, Caleb as FTN Insiders, and learn more about us, click the link below on this YouTube description. Follow us on X, Instagram, and YouTube, and all platforms. Follow and subscribe at Fandom Nation. That's Dom Velasco, our FTN Insider. That's also Caleb Rutherford, our other FTN Insider. I'm Joel Lars. We're signing off with Gridiron Unfiltered. We'll see you Friday. It's Gridiron Unfiltered, where the ultimate fandom meets the gridiron.